All right. It is Friday.
And we're fired up.
We are, brother. What's up?
What's up, brother?
Let's go.
Let's go.
All right. So we have actually had probably a show unto itself
It
before we
is,
even started. And
yes.
so
that's
my man
behind
Lane-
the paywall.
Yes.
The before
yeah.
the podcast show.
That subscribe to our Patreon.
Yes.
For all the,
yeah, exactly.
So who do you got with you, bro?
Man, I've got Tyler Richardson with me, the man, the myth, the legend, as most know. So here's the quick story behind this. Years ago, I was on the road doing Bold, and I was about to get off the road, and I was like, oh, shoot, I don't have any friends. Meaning, like, everyone that I knew was, like, in Michigan or Chicago or Wyoming, whatever. And I was like, I felt this gap in my life. I was like, I need to start having some fun, and I need to make some friends. And I literally sat down, and this is how weird I am. I sat down and wrote out, like, here's what I want in a friend, right? Like my little journal. You know what I mean?
Like a wish list.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. My little Christmas friend wish list.
Which now in his coaching, he calls that the missing persons report.
Now we have a fancy term for it.
Dude, I like that. That's good branding, bro.
That is good branding. Thank you. Yeah, but at this point, it's just waiting in a journal. But anyway, I was like, dude, I need a guy that's like, I need a man in my life. You know what I mean? I was like, I need someone who believes similar to I believe. I need someone who like has kids. You know what I mean? Like I don't need a guy that's like, hey, every Friday night let's go party all night.
let's
Right?
get
I need
hammered.
a solid dude. You know what I mean?
I was that guy.
Yeah.
You know, if he didn't need that before, I could have. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now I'm looking for that guy. So DM me. It's different. Although it's funny being single. People think being single, like at this point in my life, is like bars and clubs. It's mostly laundry. Right, like it's mostly right. You know what I mean? Like it's mostly laundry and like where are my kids supposed to be? Because my 2 kids are supposed to be in 8 places. So that's where. Anyway, it's not as sexy as you think. But anyway, I met this man and I was like, holy cow, this dude's incredible. And he invited me to go work out because I was just such amazing physique at that point.
He automatically assumed that you were a gym rat.
Automatically, yeah. It was just very apparent that I had been, doing nothing except sitting on planes. And Tyler Richardson came into my life. So Tyler, give us the little brief. What's the brief history of you, and then I want to get into some real good stuff.
Yeah, sounds good. Tyler Richardson. I'm the president of a home building company and the president of a faith-based nonprofit. I do the home buildings so that I can do the nonprofits and everything. I got 4 beautiful kids. One who is adopted from China with Down syndrome, Willow, and Wayne and I share some moments and journey through that adoption process since he had already walked it before. Golly, I mean, I'm a recovering real estate agent and a recovering mortgage loan officer that's now on the home building side. I don't think you ever get past that life, right?
I still have nightmares about 1003s where it's like,
You should
your
see
docs
them.
in.
You
Get
should
your
see them
docs in.
now. They're like 40-something pages. It's insane.
Dude, it's amazing.
But been married for 17 years. From Midland, Odessa. Grew up in a flat land in the oil patch and had zero money whatsoever. And have just worked my way through it. This is the first job I've ever had that's not 100% commission, although it's 70% commission. So found Wayne, and we'll probably get way deeper into this, so I won't jump too far into it, but found Wayne when I was kind of searching for exactly who I was, but I knew how to sell and I knew how to make money. I just didn't know how to do it systematically.
Yeah.
And never really defined it. And so I was kind of bouncing all around the bowling lane. And Wayne and I's journey has been pretty unique. Like he said, he was looking for somebody, and I was looking for somebody. I was looking for somebody to help me define who I was and how to actually make money off of who I am. Mm-hmm. And he really helped kind of steer that. And I was on a spiritual journey as well as a fitness journey at that time. And where Wayne had nailed it on the business side and been coaching people on that, he obviously was not working out. He was kind of doubled over like this from sitting on airplanes all the time and being the smaller guy between 2 big guys probably on the plane most of the time. Didn't want to touch the armrest. And so we started pouring to each other since then, and that's been, going on almost 12 years now. So,
whoa.
Yeah. It's been amazing.
Yeah, we've jumped out of planes, we've cried, we've hugged, we've won, we've done triathlons together, we've been through a divorce together, we've walked the gauntlet and stood on top of the mountain together. So
Love it.
Yeah.
He's tried to kill me on multiple attempts. We discovered Wayne does not swim. Lots of it's been
I'm with you
interesting.
on that, dude.
Yeah,
Dude, Jaws.
There's no buoyancy to Wayne for some reason.
Yeah,
It's
my parents took me to see Jaws when I was like 7.
Oh,
Why?
Lord.
Why? Jaws and Gremlins. Like, those were 2 big ones. What was your big, that was the movie that freaked you out forever? Like, do you have a go-to one?
The 2. And they were literally back to back as far as like chronologically.
Yeah.
And I'm like 7 or 8 years old. Jaws and The First Omen.
Oh, you went hard,
Dude.
I was like, Gremlins was hard for me. Like you're like, no, Satan came and dwelt with. Yeah,
Just the like, because like The First Omen is a really well made movie.
Yeah.
And like it just, and back then I'm going to church camp every summer, and I'm like seeing this, and I'm like, what the? And
I love scary movies where it's like, hey, like intense scary thing, but the spiritual stuff, and maybe it's just because I've seen too much and believed too much, but like I've been to places where like you're in the jungle of Bolivia, like you're seeing like actual stuff go down. So like even now, like I'm not super into like the spiritual scary movies because I'm like, it's kind of legit.
well, okay, to that, I watched The Pope's Exorcist like maybe like 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago. And I thought like, oh, I like Russell Crowe. Let me just see what this is about. It's Halloween, whatever. And I'm like, dude. And it turned into this crazy.
Still sleep with the lights
like,
on.
when it also turned into like this crazy like Catholic action movie at the end. And I'm like, where did this come from?
Yeah.
And then it turns out the guy, Gabriel Amort, is actually a real guy.
Oh yeah, no, exactly. At the end of the like, and based on blah blah blah.
Yes.
Yeah, and you're like,
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
I went down the rabbit hole on YouTube watching that guy.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, bro.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
yeah. No, there. I mean, legit. There's spiritual war going on at all times.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's a different
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah, that's a different podcast.
That's the night podcast.
Yes.
Right? What was that? Coast to Coast AM.
Coast to Coast AM.
Yes. What have you seen?
Art Bell. Yeah.
Did it touch you?
Tell me more.
Did you touch back?
Tell me more.
There we go. So back to Tyler, who's like, what podcast am I on?
He's like, what just happened?
When Wayne
did-
invites me anywhere, I just go ahead and strap in and I bring a helmet. So
There you go.
go.
Absolutely.
Pack a lunch.
Yeah, literally when we jump out of planes. So let's talk first about so you're in new construction now.
Yep.
And what is your just give everyone just a brief like what is Blue Haven? What do you guys do?
Sure. Yeah, so Blue Haven Homes founded in about 1997 up in Amarillo, Texas, in the flatlands of the Panhandle up on the top of the Table Rock. And father and 2 sons. They have 17 different vertically integrated companies, and the Blue Haven Homes is the home building arm of those companies. We do about 120 homes in Amarillo, and currently we're doing about 60 to 70 here in DFW, and that's about to grow to about 120 here in DFW. And then over the next 36 months, our goal is to grow that globally in 500 units in each market. So 500 in Amarillo, 500 in DFW, and kind of cap that off and build the team around that.
Very cool. Let me
Is
say
it?
no, it is. It's amazing what you built because I think that like when they first came to you, they had no presence in Dallas.
That is correct.
Right. So I mean, it was literally like, hey, we think you're the right guy. Here's this thing. Go nail it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So Tyler's really a great example of like you get the right person and the rest
Yes.
of it kind of figure it out. You know what I mean? So he's and it's a testament to Tyler of like he went through some things that he was okay at, but like never found his perfect thing and like but everything lined up, right?
That's
like
right.
looking
That's
back,
right.
like being a realtor, being like all these things kind of
There
lined
was
up
no
for him to be
accidents.
perfectly ready. So it was great. But I guess a couple questions for you is
Yep.
first off, I guess just give us a couple of seconds, for realtors that are watching, what's a couple pieces of advice or wisdom you have for them when working with builders or misbeliefs, things like that?
Well, it's a unique scenario, right? I've been on both sides, and I've only been on the consumer side my entire career until this, which I still consider the home builder on the consumer side, but that would not be the narrative in the market. And not to, throw shame or shade at any other home building company. That's never what we do. And it shouldn't happen, but when you're a large publicly traded company, some of the decisions you have to make is different. We're privately owned. We get to make decisions quickly. But what I would say is for all of you real estate agents out there and for your mortgage lenders out there, right? Your assumption is that there's no opportunity unless your customer wants to purchase that. For your mortgage lenders out there, your opportunity is to pick up the crumbs, right? Because a lot of these mortgage companies that are partnered with a home building company, the majority of them are junior LOs writing those loans and originating.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't fit in that perfect box, they're going to try to deny it. Yeah. Well, I can tell you there's opportunity after opportunity for those loan officers to go and call on them and say, hey, if they say no, send one to me. See if I can say yes.
Right.
That's another deal in your pocket. For you real estate agents out there, what I will tell you is while you most likely will not list those properties, bringing buyers is phenomenal, right?
Yep.
And so real estate agents are really the backbone to our production line and to our pipeline. And without real estate agents, during COVID, we never reduced the buyer's agent commission. That's something I said not happening, right? A lot of them went down to 1%, 2%, stuff like that. But what I would tell you is to make sure to be present.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Wayne, and so many times we will see a name on a contract and they are not in the appointment. They're not in the buyer walks. They're not present for third-party inspections.
Yeah.
They're not at closing. And so I would say that a lot of that is discount brokers. But at the same time, there is such a huge opportunity right now in today's market that is shifting, right? Shift always happens.
Yep.
There's such a big opportunity to shine as a true professional and a true consultant for your clients. And I would say show up, ask the right questions, and then understand that while the sales rep for the home building company, absolutely fiduciary responsibility goes to the home building company, that truly the collective goal should be and is with my company for that buyer to get to the finish line.
Yeah.
And that's on both sides. And real estate agents at times can make that more difficult, or they can be an incredible partner to where everybody is in the role of making sure that plane lands safely.
Yeah. I mean, when I first moved to Dallas, one of the things I did to build my business was I would build relationships with the reps.
Yes.
And because I was like, they're meeting everybody. So I built relationships with the reps. And we actually had a program and a flyer and a whole nine where I'd go in and I'd be like, hey, look, if you have somebody that comes in and needs to sell their house, send them to me, right? Like, and I'm going to build the crap out of you and I'm going to tell them you're the best builder ever. Like, I'm going to help facilitate that relationship.
Speaking of that,
and sell their house. So like, I got a ton of business from it.
Yes. And as like the content guy in the room, what is
The
y'all's
smart guy. This is what he's trying to say. You can just say it. He's the smart one.
What is y'all's operating philosophy on, say for example, it's a new agent that they're likely going to be on the buy side anyhow,
Yes.
99.999% of the time,
Yes.
where they come in and they become the expert on your product, on their time, on their dime, but actually, because right now there is talk about like a war behind the scenes or whatever, there's a lot of pushback and a lot of enmity on agents that are out faking like certain things or their listings and just to try to get eyeballs. And it's like, I'm all about trying to get the eyeballs, but I'm a big believer in, rising tide lifts all boats. So 100%. What if, buyer's agent, new, freshly minted, just got out of, Champions 15 minutes ago, but they want to come out and do you have a model that they could shoot in or that they, so you guys encourage that or...
1,000%.
Absolutely.
And so what my sales reps would be encouraged to do is they would most likely reach out to me as the president of the company, and I would be trying to set an appointment with that real estate agent to go and pour into them. We have green screens that are models so that they can shoot content. People are able to promote that as open houses. We allow agents to hold open houses in our spec homes. We want.
I mean, that's what I used to do when I first moved here. I was like, nobody's gonna walk into the office and just be like, "Oh, I need an agent." And like hardly ever. I literally would go work from open model homes, open house, right? And then if Dave needs an hour off or whatever
That's
it is,
right.
like I'd be the guy that they call.
Yes,
that's right.
And I'd just sit there all day long doing the work I was going to do in a cubicle somewhere. I would just do it at that spec or model home, and every once in a while, guess what? Somebody walked in.
Well, and that's what back whenever I was a mortgage guy in a previous life, and but whenever I got out of that, and I was the solo artist, different before the brick and mortars and before this.
We
LLC.
deleted all the photos, by the way, from that previous life. I feel like that's an internet search I need to have.
Oh, you know what's funny? Funny that you mentioned that. Photo Bucket. Here's a throwback. Photo Bucket just said like, "Hey, your account hasn't been logged into since 2006." So I'm going to give them $5.
But you've been paying for it.
No.
No. Hashtag get an accountant. Hashtag bookkeepers.
So I am actually going to give them the $5
Yes.
to get the terabyte of storage to
Let's
get
go.
back
Absolutely.
my 1,500 photos. And I'm
Let's
like,
go.
okay, what's in there?
That's amazing.
That's going to be an awesome trip down memory
where it'll
lane.
be like, whoa.
Burn it.
Yeah.
Pay $5 just to get it off the internet.
So the whole idea of going into the open or
Yeah.
the model home, I did the same thing as content guy where I would have an agent with me and we would go in and be like, oh, here's Wayne, the sales rep. We'd, introduce or whatever. And it's usually an attractive lady that comes in. It's like, hey, we're going to like shoot some content if you're cool with that or whatever. And if you want to go grab lunch, do whatever, yada, yada, we'll hold down the fort.
Yeah.
Yep.
And to almost 100% every single, oh, dude, yeah, here, man. Cool, I'll be back in an hour.
Yep.
And like, oh, all right. It
Yep.
turned out to be way easier, but it was one of those things where you have to go do it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Man, y'all sound like proactive as all get out as far as where we are in the 21st century.
I mean, you have to be, right? I mean, obviously we're active on social media and TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and all that kind of stuff. But if a real estate agent, and especially, coming from my side as the leader of the company, and obviously I report to our owners, but as the leader of the company, I'm so encouraging on, customer engagement and also those realtor engagements, because it's like multi-level marketing, right?
Yeah.
You can have 150 advocates for your business out there. And as long as you treat them right and pour into them and do those right things, then, when I was a real estate agent in a production, I would always, hey, here's the 5 houses we're going to go see on Saturday. And then number 6 is I'm going to show you a new construction home just so I can show you what you can get for the same price, but has a 1-year workmanship and material warranty to your mechanicals and a 10-year structural. And a lot of times they go, oh, wow, and I never made that decision on the builders that were offering bonus commissions, none of that kind of stuff. If that happens, that's just a big plus.
Yeah.
I made the decision off of who were the great builders that I knew would take care of my clients.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, so we'll definitely circle back on that because the line of agents that I know that want to do stuff like that, but are like, where should we go? What should we do? Yeah. That line goes around the block.
That's right.
100%. Well, and I think Tyler's advantage is he comes from the streets, not the corporate world, right?
Yep.
So he knows what it's like to be a realtor, to be like he gets that side. So,
right.
But let's pivot for a second.
Sure.
So here's what I want to know: a couple of your big transitions, for you as a leader. So one of the biggest transitions for you was going from, and I'll let you articulate it, but like you struggled with so much with like tough conversations and things like that. So like walk us through like the 2 or 3 biggest things that you've kind of gone through or developed on that have allowed you to actually be the leader you are now, leading a ton of people in a really good way.
Oh man. So I guess I would start with, my fear of confrontation. I had a little bit of a rough childhood. I had the most amazing mother ever, and she's still, one of my closest friends, next to my wife. I'll say second place to my wife. Wife number 1, mother number, But
Good catch.
Yeah. Well played, sir.
Just in case. But I was so fearful of confrontation, and something that Wayne has coached me on over all of these years of growing me from just kind of a marketing manager of a mortgage company to now being a president of a company is, we suffer to avoid suffering. Mm-hmm. And I was a habitual, punishing myself for that. Yeah. And so I would think something is going to be a tough conversation, right? Calling somebody to let them know that the appraisal came in short on the mortgage side, or calling someone to let them know that, the multiple offer situation when I was a realtor didn't get accepted, or that I made a mistake somewhere. If it was Monday, I would spend all week suffering about that conversation. And then I would have the conversation, fumble around it, and then go, that's interesting. That didn't hurt near as bad as I thought it was going to. And so I've just had to get really great at, number 1, figuring out if it's my DNA that is causing the confrontation or truly something that's causing the confrontation. And then just going and having the conversation instead of suffering through that. As well as, I try to, as a leader, I'm always asking, what is their outcome? What is their desired outcome in this? Yeah. And, because most of the time when we have people that, I don't manage people, right? I pour into them. And so, we used to do the job. Now we manage people to do the job, right? And so I don't really focus on the activities. I give suggestions. We look at results, not necessarily the number of results. But if the results aren't there, we go back to the activity. That was really hard for me. How do you hold somebody accountable? Because I want everybody to like me. Mm-hmm. And so what I figured out, and Wayne has helped me with this a ton, is we start out by knowing what are your goals. Yeah. And does what we do align with your goals? And then I just hold them accountable to the goals that they said they wanted.
They said they wanted.
That's right.
Yeah, it's like they make up the rules of their own game.
That's right.
And then you hold them to it.
And that feels so much less confrontational, opposed to, hey, you were supposed to write 10 contracts this month. Why didn't you write 10 contracts? Show me your call sheet. What kind of conversations are you having? I mean, nobody wants to hear that, right? And instead, it's like, hey, Dave, your goal is X amount. and we know we needed to be at 5. Is there anything that I can do? Is there anything I can provide you to make sure that we hit this goal or make up for this goal? And then you'll get some real answers.
Well, and sometimes it allows you to lovingly call them out, right? It's like,
That's right.
So you know,
I would say call them up, not
yeah,
out.
but like you said that, and that's a great way to do it. Like, how do I call them up instead of out?
That's right.
It's like you said you wanted to do 10 deals, and we agreed it was going to take this many, this many calls, whatever it is. I only see this many calls. Do you still want to do 10 deals? Like do we need to figure out how to make this, fix this? Or do we just need to lower your goal?
That's right.
But it's like you're calling them right up and out, in a sense, and gives them the opportunity to shine.
That's right. And I think that less, and it's hard to say this more in like a relationship, marriage type setting. But in a business setting, you obviously have a little bit more distance there, I guess you'd say. But when you truly care about your people, like I truly care about their well-being. I care about what's going on at home. I care about if they're drinking enough water. I care about, and I think that when you care that way, it doesn't come from the boss putting the thumb on you.
And it somewhat softens the blow.
That's right. It's literally like, hey, like we have collective goals here. And for me to hit my goals, for the company to hit their goals, like you have to hit your goals first. So what are we looking at? And then I would just say, accountability, right?
Yeah.
Accountability is tough unless you know how to receive accountability. And so a lot of what we do in our leadership is learning about accountability and what does it feel like to be held accountable? And then what kind of accountability are you okay with, right? Now, I will say I don't white glove a whole lot of things because I earn their respect and I earn a relationship with them that I can go in and say, hey, here's what we said and here's what has not happened. And when I say we, it's a collective conversation between me and my employees. Builders and warranty are tough, right? We're building houses that are built by humans, not robots. And so, holding them accountable to that quality and that speed, is something that I always tell them, like, hey man, like, have you had your mom walk this house? Or if you were selling this to your little sister, is this the quality that you'd be cool with? Right?
Ouch.
I mean, I don't like her that much anyway. So yeah.
I don't
First
have a
off,
sister.
do you like your sister?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's so true, and it makes me think of this. And I don't know you're taking it, but like you could have written this, but this is written by somebody else who I can't get the photo to show up right. But here's what he says. So Theo Vaughn, who I don't know if you've seen, he's blown up. But here's what he said. And you could have written this. He said, "My life got better when I realized I didn't have to be nice. Nice got me used, stressed out, disrespected." He goes, "I'm not nice. I'm a good person." And there's a big difference. And I think like Tyler's journey and a lot of my journey too has been going from like a nice guy to like a good man.
Yes.
And I think it's because like a nice guy would like, "Oh, I know you're trying." A good guy goes like, "I love you. Here's your goal. What do we need to do to get you there?"
Come on.
Right? And I think like that transition for him was so beautiful. And it came with like, okay, here's a conversation model. Here's a script. Here's how you guys, like we had to get some tools and things in there.
100%.
As well, not just a head shift. You have to have the tools too.
Well, and the whole idea of thinking that you're going to get what you want by being nice rarely ever works. And then it also sets up this dynamic where if you're ever familiar with the covert contract idea, where it's like, you and I have an agreement that you don't know about, but in my head it is 100% valid and you're not living up to it. And so I'm going to be pissed at you.
Yes.
And you don't know why. And now everything just breaks down.
100%.
And decades.
You said you were going to talk about my marriages, but anyway,
I was literally about to say. Now we're back to marriage coaching.
Back to marriages, there
and
we go.
it's the unspoken expectations without showing appreciation.
Oh yeah.
And how many relationships fell immediately because of that?
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
All of them where that's present.
That's right.
As I'm sure my ex-wives would.
Yeah.
They testified
Absolutely.
Says every selfish man ever because that's our flesh.
Well, yeah, and I mean that's just and again I said earlier about almost 20 years sober. It is like, oh wow, yeah, that used to be. And I made a note to get to my paid sponsor business coach lady on Monday where it's like why do I just noticed I do this and then I have this certain emotional payoff from like just have this thinking snarky and shitty things, and it's like, wow, where'd that come from? Because she's real good about doing the forensics on like
pulling it out,
the childhood stuff or whatever. And man, that's a learning curve, bro.
Yeah. It really is. It really is.
I can't do the math, but 20 years sober. I don't know how many. What's
so
300?
many.
What's 365 times 20? I can't do the math. But
There's
you,
an app for that.
There
no
is an
doubt.
app for that.
But you have
And-
literally decided to wake up and be a victor instead of a victim for 20 years every single day. And I think that many times we hear people say, hey, I've been sober, I've been clean for this long, and we clap and say congratulations, but we forget.
I can't. None of my readers on.
Holy cow. 7,282 days.
Yeah. And so people complain
That's
about a
amazing.
hard quarter in business.
Right.
This was a tough
Wow.
week. Think about that right there.
Yeah.
Every day waking up and deciding to fight.
Yeah, and some of those days there's probably 32 times.
Oh,
Right.
Right,
Dude.
and that's where I think like being a victim and a victor. And this is I think something you've got great at is like being a victor. And like for me, like yes, we all make the decision in one point in our life, like I'm going to be a victor, not a victim, right? And then for me, like I've got a little bitch somewhere deep inside me that loves to like sneak out, right?
Oh,
you know what I
yeah.
mean? And it's like yeah, but whatever it is, right? And it's like sometimes you got to make the decision to be a victor like 8 times in a day.
When there's a huge almost like payoff whenever you realize
Yeah.
in the self-awareness, the fact that like, oh, I have that, you know, because for me, it took however long for me to figure out like, oh, there's this, for lack of a better term, I said like, there's the alcoholic brain or
Right.
my alcoholic thought process that it happens every time and it will for the rest of my life. Give me situation X that either surprises me, embarrasses
Yeah.
me, or puts me in, financial fear or just some kind of bullshit
sure.
or whatever. And it could be 100% true about to happen or
Yeah.
completely made up in my own mind.
Yep.
But I have this reaction that I used to just think that's who I am. I
Right.
am this reaction
Yes.
versus it's, react or respond. You know what I mean? And having that,
100%. And having the awareness, like something
Take a knee.
happens, there's a 2 second or 1 second gap in there where I can choose to like, okay, reflect for a second and then respond.
my
rather
experience
than
is for every 10 years of sobriety, you get about 1.75
yeah,
seconds.
yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, but to be aware and say like, okay, that guy used to drive.
Yeah.
Then he was in the passenger seat. Then he was in the back seat.
Correct.
But he's always in the trunk.
That's
Yeah,
right.
we could pop the trunk
it
anytime.
doesn't go. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
That part of that
And
doesn't
he
go.
comes out like who's that guy that comes out in The Hangover where he comes out swinging
Yeah.
with nothing but underwear on?
Yeah, there we go. By the way, the 3 of us can pull that off.
And something that you said really quick, Wayne, and
Yeah,
I
no, go
apologize.
for it.
But something you said is that you were saying that the response or the reaction.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that the managers, they ask questions and get reactions all the time.
Yeah.
Leaders teach and train on how to respond.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm completely fine to where if I have a question about how we did something, why we did something, what this is, where the numbers are at, I'm completely fine with someone going, you know what, Tyler, I don't have that. Let me get it and let me get it right.
Yeah.
And then we'll discuss that. And I'm like, that's a response, not a reaction. Because most reactions are, I don't know, it wasn't my job or somebody else.
Yep.
Yeah.
We get nowhere, right?
Yeah.
And so
Well, and you asked me the other week something along the lines of if you could give
this
one-
could have been 2 years
Yeah,
ago,
it
by
could
the
have
way,
been.
if he said the other day.
If it's the other day, it literally could be any time in my life. I was 7 and Rick and I were hanging out in the sandbox. No, but you said like if you could give some, entrepreneurs one gift or one insight, what would it be? And it was the gift of like literally having self-awareness.
Yep.
Like you gotta have awareness. But I think there's like you've got, because when we become aware, like this is the greatest gift you can give yourself is becoming aware of something. Yet there's 2 pieces of that. Like first people are like, oh, I got triggered. Well, if it's the second time that's happened, that's on you.
Bingo.
You know what I mean? And it becomes such a like, oh, I just got triggered. It's like, yeah, but that's on you. And I think the other thing, people are like, oh, I just have this habit. It's like, after you become aware of it, it's no longer a habit. Now it's a decision. It may be something you decide a lot, but if you have a habit, technically it's something that I do unconsciously.
Yeah.
Without awareness. So like, nope, now it's a choice.
And like I bust on the guys that I sponsor and stuff where they'll be like, dude, I'm engaging in old behavior. And I'm like, it's not old behavior if you're still doing it.
Right, yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That was this morning.
right,
Yeah.
right. And you're saying that as it's happening.
Yes.
So that doesn't really, that doesn't qualify as old
No.
behavior.
And I think the second piece of that is awareness is the greatest thing you can do for yourself, but also you got to get people around you to help have conversations with you, to call
That's
you out on
huge.
your stuff. You know what I mean? And one of the things like we do, we're going to get together next month and do this like small group that we have where a couple business owners and stuff fly in and we have a really powerful day. And part of the power of that is calling each other out.
That's right.
And part of that is, oh shoot, that person asked a question I didn't even know I should have asked. You know what I mean? So it's like there's all this awareness that comes in that, but you've got to have great people. You got to like get in an environment and create that where you get that really, really good feedback, because we don't know what we don't know. You know what I mean?
Yes. And there's a certain amount of, as you do that, and the willingness and the self-awareness, and as you level up, the people that are on the next level show up.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're invisible to them.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And so, because I'm finding that out now, where I'm in, like, sometimes I'll be in a room and I'm like, they let me in here.
Yeah.
Or it's like, okay, they're going to ask me to lead any minute.
Yeah.
And they don't.
Right.
Which you're in the right room at that point.
Yeah.
So cool. Yeah. Well, and just like your awareness, like you were suffering to avoid suffering, and once you had that awareness, like it kind of changes everything. So let's transition to this because I want to make sure we hit this as we get to the end. What if you and I talked about this last night, but like you've got to the point where you are hitting 3 birds with 1 stone, which sounds weird, but like walk us through kind of walk us through that.
So I believe, the best way, and I actually learned this in my real estate career, to where I was going, okay, how do I attract people? And then it got even bigger in my mortgage career, right? And so the difference between the two, in my opinion, is that when you're a real estate agent, everybody in the world can be your client. To where you're a mortgage loan officer, go find realtors, right? And so what I did is I was like, all right, so do I go hang out at the golf tournaments? Do I go and buy everybody lunch or drinks, or what do I do? Or do I go and do what I love that makes me feel good, which is serving people through nonprofits and truly serving. I used to give a talk during Hero Nation that was called, building your business through service, not just customer service. I would invite people to come and serve alongside with me. Mm-hmm. Now, don't get me wrong. 4 hours on the golf course is a great time, but you're literally with 2 or 3 other people.
Yeah.
When you can go and volunteer and serve and then invite people along to that journey, I mean, it opens up their hearts. And you're doing it not talking about business. And you got to make sure that your selfish ambition is checked at the door, right? But you're literally going, man, I think this person and I can really get along. That's who we want to do business with. Mm-hmm. Now, hey, would you be willing to go and serve, go and volunteer? Would you want to go, and a lot of people like soup kitchens, stuff like that are awesome, right? Well, go and find something that you're passionate about. And like Wayne, he drove all the way to South Texas with me one time to deliver medical supplies after the hurricane hit. What's the
Corpus
island?
Christi and a bunch of those down there.
No. But it's the one that like hovered over Houston and flooded it out. Mm-hmm. But first, it came through Port Aransas, stuff like that. Well, we were able to take medical supplies down there and drop it off before FEMA even got there. And we were with a group of other guys that had trucks, and it was like, let's go. And so I really believe that by serving and being involved in your community and being involved in your kids' stuff and pouring into people, the conversations are naturally going to come up. What do you do?
Yes.
Right? No. And then if you are coming from contribution and being an active connector, I mean, I would say probably when I became a mortgage loan officer, the first 3 years of my career was literally just connecting other people. And then when that relationship would win, they would remember who was that connector, and they were both actively trying to give back to me.
Yes. So. And it's the old Ben Franklin thing where I'm probably going to paraphrase this and just slice it to shreds.
That's what we're here
but there
for.
was a thing where Ben Franklin had another statesman that he hated, and that they were just adversarial. And he thought like, well, maybe it's me. And so he asked the guy, he said, hey, it'd be like, Wayne, you're an expert in old manuscripts and books. And I hear you have this super rare, Could I borrow that? And by the virtue of the guy, basically Ben Franklin acknowledges that the guy's an expert. The guy gives him the book, lends it to him, and there's this psychological trigger that's basically, well, if I lent him the thing that I really love, he must be all right.
Right.
And from then on, they were amicable and they were cool. But it's that whole thing of, and then there's also this, it's very counterintuitive to 21st century America where it's like, oh no, not me. I'm not going to go first.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You give me something first, and then if I like it, then I'll reciprocate.
Yes.
But that whole idea of just suit up and show up and contribute, it's like, it's almost like it's a foreign concept in today's world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so that's why I love this kind of stuff, and just seeing, I just like being in the middle of just the.
Well, and it's like I love doing life with people that we can do. We can get multiple things, right? So it's like I can either have my people that I do business with, and my people that I do family stuff with, and my I can have all these different compartments, Or I can find people like Tyler. Like Tyler was so brilliant. He's like, people are like, man, I want to be your mortgage lender or whatever it is. He's like, cool, you want to hang out? Come to this thing. Saturday morning, we're packing baskets for the homeless. You know what I mean?
Right.
Whatever. And it's like, it was like, cool, I get to do this thing. I get to build this relationship. And like, I get to do 3 things in one activity.
Well, yeah, just like whenever, whenever it was the middle of the summer, we're hanging out and Lance is making hamburgers or whatever. And, it's like, okay, this is cool.
Yeah.
And then
it's like half business building, half lunch, half therapy. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And just being a bunch of jagoffs in the pool,
exactly.
for a couple of hours. It was like, that was awesome. And it would have never occurred to me, because like you said, and this is also sort of like historical addictive behavior, whatever. You compartmentalize everything. Sure. Where it's like, when I'm around this person, I'm this person.
Right.
And when I'm over here, I do this. And then when nobody's around, all it's hell with the lid off, And not being that anymore is very interesting. And then, at least for me, I'm always like, wow, why didn't I couldn't have figured that out on my own.
Yeah.
Is the other thing where it's like, wow, why didn't I know that? Because that's not something you sort out by yourself.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody the other day said, have you got really good at compartmentalizing? And it was, the way they phrased it was interesting. And there is, like, I can turn off, if I'm having a struggle, I can turn that off and be the coach I need to be in that moment, things like that, right? But my answer to her was like, you know what? I've got better at just being me and having to compartmentalize less. Meaning, like, I don't need to be Coach Wayne when I'm with you and then friend when I'm like, I'm getting better at just being me.
Yes.
And part of that goes back to not being a nice guy, right? And just, there's a lot less compartmentalizing and putting on a show that you have to be when you just get cool with you.
Yeah. And the self-awareness, like, I always say, like, I want to be invited. I just don't want to go.
Right. Yeah. There you go. There you go. Yeah.
I think that over the last, really 5 to 8 years, people's bullshit meters have really grown.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that whether you want to talk about, the social media world, different disinformation, whatever it is, people's bullshit meters have really grown strong. And I think that people are able to detect the lack of authenticity pretty quickly now.
Yeah,
right. And
absolutely.
so if you're
like, if you suck, go change. People are like, just be yourself. Like, well, maybe you suck.
That's
and
right.
you need to go do some work. Like, be yourself, and maybe you need to do some work.
That could possibly be the worst advice you've ever gotten.
Yeah, be like, I'm just going to be me. It's like,
You sure about that?
Yeah, you sure? Maybe baby you, not you now. Yeah. All right. So to put a bow on it, what are the 2 biggest things you would have aspiring leaders go do or practice or work on, whatever it is, to get better at their leadership? They want to go from manager to leader. What's 2 really tactical things you'd tell them to do?
All right, I'll look into the camera for this one. I hope I don't disappoint you on this. But what I would say is it's extremely easy, right? Number 1 is get around others that you want to be like and aspire to be like. And that is an active invitation, right? And so you find that person and say, hey, can I get a little bit of your time? And then, like you were saying, all of a sudden you'll find yourself in a room looking around going, I am the most unequipped, stupid person in this room. You're in the right room, right? If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So I would say that. So, we have our small group that naturally, accidentally occurred, and now it's an actual thing, and it is powerful as hell, right? And then,
now we're leading the group, and we've created groups. But I think what's so important is we also got in a lot of those rooms early on because we literally were like, hey, can I come and just move chairs for you?
That's right.
Like, do you need a ride from the airport? Like, can I come be in the room and I'll literally serve coffee all day long?
Guess how
I
I got free coaching before I could afford it? Doing that. I told Wayne, I'll show up to the event. I'll make sure that you're on time. I will help you with people. I will set the mints out. I'll do the chairs. And guess what? That only happens for a certain amount of time. Then you get to sit there and take notes and rub elbows with people that just paid $1,500 to $2,000 to be at the event.
Absolutely.
And then the second one is leadership is something you have to work at daily, right? And so you have to actively, we're not, some people think that people are naturally leaders. I don't think that anybody is naturally a leader of people because we're all broken people. Right. And that's just like, pastors and stuff like that. They have to work at it and they still fail constantly. And so I think that you have to work at being a leader every single day, doing self-evaluations. And then that third thing, if you said 2, but I've got 3, is if you are not, if you're not hiring a coach, and this isn't because Wayne's my best friend, it's because of what it's done for me. No. I'm living proof that I went from, someone who was really, really jacked up, who's just not as much jacked up now, but just stays on path, right? So it would be like, you know, your sponsors and stuff like that, the people around you who love you, pour into you and go, hey, I've already been there. Let's come back right here. And so, you know, that third one is to hire someone and pay them to be your coach. Whether that's, and listen, right now I've got a business coach, and then he takes that hat off and he's my best friend, and I coach him in many ways. My wife and I have been married for 17 years. We have a marriage coach. My children have coaches. I mean, I'm just big on coaching because, you know, there's called blind spots for a reason. So
yeah. And I mean, I'll do one plug. Like next month, we're doing 2-day our coaches training, and literally it's 2 days where I literally let 8 people come to my home, and I teach them how to be a great coach. Right? Here's the scripts. Here's the process. Here's the models. Here's the, like, because so many people, they want to be a good leader. They want to be a good coach. And they're just trying to white knuckle it, and nobody's really giving them like the tools, which is what I do. So like you said, you work out every day.
Yep.
Like we can break that curve way down by giving you some of the tools that took, you know, us 20, 30 years to put together.
Yeah, and even in my world of like this with the, so like I always joke and I say like, oh man, if you like really want high tone friends and get free coaching and advice from the best people, build a studio and have a show.
Absolutely.
You know, and if that's not possible, then get a coach.
Yeah.
You know, because I couldn't tell you where I would be without bringing it to the recovery thing, without the sponsorship and the paid sponsors and the therapists that know all the little, you know, traps and snares and picadillos that come with that, and to be able to help navigate. And it's always somebody who's always already been there.
Yeah.
You go like, dude, you remind me a lot like me when I was jacked up.
Yeah.
And that is the thing that works the best.
Yes.
You know, because we're tribal, you know, and like if you find your tribe, and it clicks.
And I don't want to be remiss in not saying this. You need 3 levels of people, right? And most of us have 1 or 2. So you need people, I think, that you're pouring into. Like we all need people, like you're pouring into so many of your crew and so many other people and me and all these other people, right? You're pouring in, but then you also need people that are like on the journey with you, right? It's kind of like you, me, and Lance in the pool, right?
Yes.
It's like, yeah, my week kind of went to hell too. Like, how'd you recover, right? You know, whatever it is, right? But it's like, so you need people you're pouring into. Then you need people that are kind of on the journey with you, which is awesome. And yet that's not a replacement for getting people that are coaching you.
Yes.
So you're helping people. You got people on the journey with you, and then you need to probably be paying, right, in one way or another, for people to be pouring into you. And like most people have 2 or 3 of those. I really believe everybody needs all 3. You need someone that's pouring into you. You need people that are on the journey with you, and then you need people you're pouring into.
And I'll tie it back into one of your philosophies is the intentionality of it.
Yeah.
Where like because it's like you're going to accidentally be around people that are above you, below you, and maybe on your level. But the idea of actually looking for that and being intentional about it, and then actually taking action on it.
That's right.
It's like, that's the other thing, you know, because we could sit here and philosophize, you know, until the cows come home. But it's like, if you don't do anything, well, then nothing happens.
That's right. Yes.
You know?
Well, it's like I met this fellow speaker in Alaska a couple weeks ago, and he was actually one of my clients. Like, you and Mike are gonna be best friends. I was like, that's cool. And then we ended up meeting, and we literally sat on the veranda looking at Mount McKinley for hours, which was amazing, just talking about business, life, and everything. So the other day we're talking. He's like, how do we become better friends or whatever it is? And I was like, we put it in the schedule. Like, as weird as that is, like, instead of me trying to remember to, like, he lives a million miles away, whatever. It's like, I'm never going to remember to call him. And that doesn't sound rude, but like, I'm probably not going to remember. I got a lot going on. We put it on the schedule. Like, hey, every 3 weeks, we're going to call each other for 15 minutes and say hi. And I set like the intentionality, like set a reminder, but like, that's weird.
It is weird.
That's what
It
works.
is
That's
weird, but I love it.
It's super weird. Yeah.
But it's the idea of the intentionality.
Yes.
And I mean, in today's world, for me at least, it's like, if it's not on the calendar, it ain't happening.
It doesn't exist.
Yep. Absolutely.
Gentlemen.
Boom.
I appreciate y'all allowing me to do this.
Oh, dude, and man, like
this is outstanding.
You got the righteous. I mean, the voice, dude. Anytime.
I'm telling you, all day long.
This is outstanding. This is an incredible studio, and I can tell that, you know, both of you. And Wayne was telling me a little bit about behind the scenes of all of this and stuff like that, and what y'all have going here. And you know, I just hope that people don't just listen. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, and
listen,
speaking of that,
write
though,
it down, take notes.
Is TK out there listening? What up? Shout out to Tyler.
There you go. Yeah, Tyler, who's like, hey,
Candy
will you help
store.
with some stuff? And I'm like, sure, I'll help. And he's like, cool, you're the keynote speaker November 1st. And I'm like, all right. He's like, what are you going to talk about? I was like, you just told me 8 seconds ago that I was speaking. Like, I'm not there. Anyway, it'll be awesome.
Right.
But man, getting some people like that around you
Tyler's
is so
a big,
cool.
great man.
Yes.
And, you know, Michelle and I had a blast in New York. I mean, it's so cool to
She's
get
over there in
around
the shadows.
Amazing people and just do really, really cool stuff.
Yeah.
But get intentional. I mean, if I was going to give one piece of advice from kind of our conversation today, is like, get intentional. Write down who's the friend that I want in my life. Write down who's the group I want to find. Like set some intentionality behind that, and then do whatever it takes to get in the room. Either pay the fee to get in the room, volunteer to get in the room. Like, do the things to get in the room, and then eventually get invited.
Yep.
Right on.
Yep.
Boom. Fired up.
Appreciate it, fellas.
Likewise. That's it, Peter.